Yes, Parliament was back today and lots of games being played by the Parliament and those who would like the opposition to commit now, not later, to getting rid of the net zero targets. Barnaby Joyce has made the case many times over. He wants to have a debate about it in Parliament, and there will be one every Monday until we run out of speakers.
If you believe in net zero, it's a situation which brings the demolition of our industrial base. We have the lowest manufacturing now of the OECD. We have a cost of living crisis. We are putting people into their cars. We have record insolvencies in small business. And this is on the merry path to net zero.
And the bloke who just won 94 seats, once you throw in the Teals, once you throw in the Greens, about 100 of the 150 seats in the Parliament, they say, bring it on. And he's raising the stakes now to almost biblical levels.
If you get rid of net zero, you are saying climate change is not real, and you do not need to do anything about it.
Now, you and I know that's not the case, that's not the truth, but as soon as we start to move into matters of faith, it's not about logic, it's not about evidence, it is about, in many ways, belief. As for a high priestess of the movement of belief, one of the Tiffany Teals, well, they think Christmas has come early.
So the irony is today, on one hand, you have the coalition led by Barnaby Joyce and his acolytes further making themselves further irrelevant. It's like a clown show in Parliament.
Now, reality is, anyone who knows regional Australia, anyone who knows National Party country knows that the public view is that they are the ones who have to bear the brunt for what people like Zali Steggall demand happen, which of course is major changes to their areas, their environments, to make sure that that's where the new renewables get built, to make sure that the cities can feel better about themselves. But the majority of people in the cities, per the last election, they seem to have the view that this is fine by them, that they are fine to pay the higher power prices, and younger voters in particular are in an intergenerational fight with their parents, but most likely their grandparents, about the existential need for climate action. As we have said, the younger you go, the more they believe in climate change and they believe in the organised religions, meaning the matters of heaven and hell are not as important about the heaven or hell that we live on when it comes to this planet. Now, none of that's news to you, but there was an interesting poll, and I think this was fascinating for the question that it did not ask directly. Now, I want to see the same polls that were largely right about the federal election ask a straight up and down question, because it helps give everyone a clear view about where the majority of Australians are. Should Australia stick by net zero by 2050 or abandon the target? And then you can ask a whole bunch of sub-questions underneath that. Instead, we got this question in polling and many different, almost complicated details after it. Let me show you the poll. The Climate Change Authority is expected to release a new target for the 2035 emissions. Most experts think that the target range will be up from the current 43%, that's my words, says 65 to 75%. Do you support or oppose such a target? Apparently 44% of people are fine with not just what we have now, but upping it to 65 or even 75%. That's green and teal levels. 18% of people say no, and 38% of people are sitting with the no opinion or unsure. So presumably they are there to be won over. Now, in the simple game of maths, the yes side has just 6% of 38% of people to convince. The no side, at 18%, has to convince an awful lot more people. It's 59% of Labor voters. It's 32% of coalition voters, with 29% saying no and 39% saying, I don't know, 64% of Green voters who say, yep, let's get it up to 65 to 75. And in terms of other voters, the vast majority there, 33%, and that goes everything from the Tiffany Teal through to One Nation and the old Palmer parties, but still, 33% of them say no. So, OK, what are you supposed to make of that? Now, again, the more words you add to a question, the vaguer, in many ways, the question is that you are asking. By removing yes, no, and putting in I don't care, I don't know, well, then again, you might well be diluting. But again, the overall fact right now, and for those who say the extreme majority of Australians say this or say that, the reality is that the biggest chunk of Australians in this poll say they're fine with what's happening now and they want even more. So it would seem politically to be the wrong place, where the discussion is no more than what we currently have. But a very significant number of people still remain unconvinced. And we have seen polling, which, of course, when it came to the Voice, went from 60-40 yes to 60-40 no. So people can change their mind. But it's this bit that I think is really important for us all to know. Now, I don't say this because I advocate one position or the other, but because I want you to know what data there is around there about what people actually think. Both major parties support net zero by 2050, but some of the national parties say we should ditch the target. Which of the following do you think is the best approach for Australia to take? To be more ambitious than 43 is 17%. To keep the current 43 is 28%. Reduce the 2030 and just focus on 2050 is 12%. Get rid of it all is 17%. And again, 26% are unsure. So again, in a basic rule of maths here, 17 plus 28 versus 12 plus 17. The bigger bulk of people currently sit where we are or where theoretically the left and this government wants to push us, which is higher. A quarter of the country is still left to be won over. Now again, the presumption of all and everyone inside the political matrix is that 26 will just be added to the bigger number. People like our guest, Matt Canavan, tonight believes that when people hear a clear contrast coming from the opposition, there's a good chance that much of that 26 will move their way. And we get to a much more balanced position than the one that is pretty obvious. After the last federal election, again, about 100 seats in the parliament, obviously, by first preference or second preference, preferred the system that we have, and maybe even are looking forward to an even higher system than, of course, very passionate belief, but still the losing side of this election. Now, again, I don't say that because I have an absolute view that one way is the only way to go. And I have said a million times, and I've shown you the climate clock, that Australia is 1% of the world's problem, and why we would tie one or both hands behind our back makes no sense to me whatsoever. But as to where the rest of the country is, we can't sit in the bubble. We have to pay attention to the information that is out there. But fascinatingly, in these polling, there was not the straight-up question. Do you support net zero by 2050, yes or no? And that would be because I would suggest the pollsters were afraid of what the answer might be. Not because I know that the answer would be different to the one that they have shown in many different ways, but there's often a reason why they won't ask the most obvious question, such as is immigration too high in Australia, because they know what the answer might end up being. So you get watered down or fractured versions of questions where you have to pull out your calculator to end up working out where the majority or even big bulk of people are. I wonder why that might be.